Okay, picture this. It's October of 2024. A U.S. drone catches footage of a Hellfire missile being shot directly at an orb flying over a sea right near Yemen. The missile hits, and the night explodes into fire. And when all that smoke clears, the orb is still there, untouched. And what did the Pentagon say? They said, of course, it was a glitch. Pretty much like they always say in times like this. But I want you to look up. Every star in the sky has been there for millions of years. But what about the things that are moving between them? And what about those blips on the radar that they always seem to call anomalies? And of course, all those lights that they dismiss as weather balloons. You have whistleblowers that say that we've uncovered alien spacecraft. And you have pilots that say that we've chased objects that no jet that we have can catch. And now, as we speak, we have an interstellar visitor, maybe even a mothership, heading directly for our solar system. And I guess we're supposed to believe that it's all a coincidence, right? Well, that's, to me, kind of a hard pill to swallow because I feel like there's something happening. The question is, are we supposed to believe them or are we supposed to believe our own eyes? Welcome back, listeners and watchers, to another eye-opening episode of Relative Perspective. As always, I'm your host, Stephen, and tonight, we're not exploring demons or haunted houses or even secret government cults. Tonight, we're going higher, and I mean literally higher, because over the last few months, we've had UAPs, or what some of us still like to call UFOs. They've been flooding the headlines. We've got hearings, whistleblowers, a whole crap load of leaked footage, and a lot more questions that we want answers to. But here's the thing. To me, none of it feels random. It almost feels orchestrated. So tonight, we're going to dive deep. We'll look at leaked military footage, forgotten encounters, and ancient text, just like the Book of Enoch, that may have warned us about all of this thousands of years ago. And along the way, I'm going to try to ask a bunch of questions that tend to keep me up at night. I don't know about you, like, why now? What's really flying in our skies? And are we being prepared for disclosure or deceived into the greatest trick of human history? But before we get started, I would like to remind you about tonight's paranormal confession. And this one follows right along with what we're talking about tonight. You're going to hear from a lady by the name of Liz, and she's going to tell us about a close encounter that was from out of this world. And let me tell you something, you damn sure don't want to miss this one, so stick around. All right. Let's dig in. Okay, we're going to start with the big one. It's been all over the news. I'm pretty sure you've seen it. It happened in October of 2024, right off the coast of Yemen. You have a U.S. MQ-9 Reaper drone that locks directly onto an orb hovering right over the sea. The military, they see a clear target, and the order is given. Then you see a Hellfire missile streaking directly towards this orb. Then the next thing you see is impact. But when the smoke all clears, the orb appears to be untouched. Now, of course, the Pentagon brushed it off as just a glitch. But the last time I checked, glitches don't shrug off a Hellfire missile attack like a mosquito bite. And this isn't a one-off. I want you to think back to the Navy Tic Tac video. They reported seeing objects dropping from 80,000 feet straight down to sea level in seconds. And all along, the fighter pilots are watching in disbelief as these things are darting around like they're trying to play tag or something. And there were also reports of radar operators seeing these things in fleets, not just one or two of these things, but dozens of them. And of course, they tried to shrug this off. Some skeptics said it looked like weather balloons, but I have yet to see a damn weather balloon that can actually outrun an F-18. And I don't know if you've noticed, it's not just videos anymore, it's actual testimony. You had a guy by the name of David Grush, a former U.S. intelligence officer, that went on record right there in front of Congress. And he told him that our government has recovered craft of non-human origin. He said it's not rumors, it's not hearsay, it's real craft that we've taken up. And that's not the only thing he said. He also said that we've recovered non-human biologics. Now, I don't know if you know what that means, but to me, it sounds like there's some things that aren't human that's flying these damn crafts. And here's the kicker. He claims that these programs are hidden inside deep black projects that are so secret, not even Congress has access. Now, I want you to think about that for a second. You have the very people that we elect that are cut out of the loop. Kind of sounds familiar, doesn't it? Because history seems to repeat itself. You had Roswell that they said was just a weather balloon. And they claimed that Area 51, it didn't exist until decades later, we found out it actually did. So, if these guys have lied to us before, why should we assume that they're being honest with us right now? Okay, here's where everything splits into two camps. Some people say flat out that these things are alien craft from another star system, and they're piloted by beings that have technology that we can barely comprehend. And I get that. It's exciting, and honestly, it's really terrifying. The idea that another civilization from way out there can show up over here and drop something into our skies. It's kind of wild. But there's another idea that's kind of gained traction, even among some folks in Congress and in the military as well. They say that maybe these objects, they're not from another place. They claim that these things might be from another dimension, another layer in reality itself, or some would say interdimensional. Now, I want you to think about what that would mean for a second. Not just moving through space, but moving through time, or through the very fabric of reality itself. You blink and they're gone. 1 second they look like they're overhead, and the next second you can't even spot them on a radar. Now, you don't need a physics degree to feel how weird that is. Pilots describe chasing things that accelerate in ways that nothing that we've built can do. Radar techs see returns pop in and out. It doesn't fit the airplane model, and it doesn't fit the drone model. It behaves like it's bending the rules of our reality itself. And yeah, I understand that sounds really crazy. But here's the thing. Crazy, it doesn't mean impossible. All it means is that we just don't have a good model for it yet. Now, if that idea makes you feel uncomfortable, I want you to remember that we've always tried to explain the unexplainable with the language that we had for that day. Just like thousands of years ago, people saw strange lights and had encounters, and what did they call them? Either gods or messengers. And later, they called them demons. And today, we call them UAPs. Different names, but maybe the same puzzle. So the question isn't only where do they come from, it's how they're getting here, and why the hell are they showing up the way they do? Okay, we've actually discussed this before in a couple of episodes. I'll go ahead and put links below to those videos. There's an ancient text out there, I'm sure you've heard of it. It's called the Book of Enoch. It describes beings called the Watchers. Now, these things, they descended from the heavens. They taught mankind all kinds of forbidden knowledge, like weapons, sorcery, and astrology. Then they mated with human women, and the next thing that pops out is, of course, the Nephilim. Now, like we've said before, these things were giants and monsters that filled the earth with all kinds of violence. Now, Enoch writes that these watchers left their proper place and began moving through realms. They went from heaven to earth. They even went down to the abyss. These were beings that were not bound to our physics. Does that sound familiar? Just like we were talking about, crafts that blink in and out. They move from outside time and space. And some of them tend to appear as messengers of knowledge, but there's always a cost. So here's a question. What if aliens, they aren't new? What if they're the same watchers that Enoch warned us about, just rebranded for the modern age? In ancient times, there were gods. In the Middle Ages, they were demons. And today, of course, we have UAPs or UFOs. The mask tends to change, but the deception stays the same. And then there's the last theory that we're going to talk about tonight. And of course, this is one of them that a lot of people don't like to talk about. Like I said before, what if these aren't aliens at all? What if there's something older and much, much darker? For centuries, you've had people try to explain all these strange encounters that they've been having. Back then, they called them, like I said before, angels or gods or messengers. And later, they were demons or fallen ones. Now, if you don't remember, there was another video we did about the Collins elite. Now, these guys were a secret government group that thought that aliens weren't from up there. They thought they came from hell itself. They thought that these things were a deception, a long-running trick that was meant to pull humanity away from its truth, masquerading as gods, pretending to be saviors, and they always hid their true nature. And again, doesn't that pattern sound familiar? They show up, they dazzle us, they hand us forbidden knowledge, whether it's weapons, strange sciences, or spiritual lies. And of course, they leave us worse than what we were before. Civilizations, they rise and then they collapse over and over and over again. And of course, the Bible even warns us about it. They say it's lying wonders in the heavens, signs in the sky that they say that's not there to inspire us, but to mislead us. Now, I want you to picture this. A little footage leaked here, a whistleblower there, a strange object in the sky, and of course, the news tells us not to worry about it. Bit by bit, the story is fed to us until we basically don't question it anymore. And by the time people realize what's happening, it's pretty much too late. Now, guys, that's the scary part. It doesn't need to be an invasion with big spaceships or laser beams. Deception, it works better when it smiles, when it looks like a gift, and when it makes you want to believe. So I want you to tell me, which is scarier, that we're being visited by aliens or that we're being fooled by something much, much older, something that's been playing this game with us for centuries. And if that's true, then how much of what we're seeing in the skies today is really just part of the show? And now, I'm sure you've heard of this, it's something new, and it's pretty damn big. There's an interstellar object that was discovered in July of 2025 called 3I Atlas. On paper, it's just a comet. Some say it's just a chunk of ice and rock racing past the sun before it kicks off back into outer space. That's what some at NASA say, and that's what some headlines repeat. But here's what they don't emphasize. It's only the third interstellar object that we've ever detected. Now, I know this is a big word, I had to look it up, but its path is hyperbolic, meaning that it didn't come from here. And some believe that it's not staying, that it's just going to pass right through. And you have some scientists, like a guy by the name of Avi Loeb, which is from Harvard, that have already suggested that this thing could be artificial. They claim that it's possible that it could even be a mothership. Now, you notice I didn't say Waxahachie City Community College. I said Harvard, that big Ivy League school up there. Okay, I just made that name up, but if there's really a community college called Waxahachie City Community College, I mean, no disrespect. Sorry about that. Okay, all joking aside, here's where the conspiracy gets even wilder. There are whispers out there that as 3I Atlas swings past the sun, they think it might drop off probes. They claim that these things might be scouts that may be already slipping into our skies right now. So you have to ask yourself, what if the sudden wave of UAP sightings, they're not random at all? And what if the objects that our military can't seem to shoot down are connected to something much bigger, drifting silently right past our planet right now? And if the governments know this, why are they being so silent about it? Why do you think that they're reassuring the public with that same old line that it's just a comet, when the timing lines up way too perfectly with everything else that's going on right now? Or maybe that's the point. Maybe they want us to believe that it's a comet until it's way too late to ask any questions. Okay, I know it's hard to imagine this, but here's where it gets darker. Why now? Why is UAP suddenly front page news? With hearings, sound bites, and carefully released footage. To me, that timing, it doesn't feel accidental, it feels staged. One possibility is that this is disclosure, the government finally coming clean. But another possibility, it's not disclosure at all, it's conditioning. Slow and steady, just one drip at a time. Now, I want you to think about how you get comfortable with anything. You get repeated hits with the same story, the same image, or the same line from officials. And eventually, you stop asking all the hard questions. You end up accepting the narrative because it's familiar to you. Now, you have some people that point to something called Project Bluebeam. This is an old theory that basically a fake alien event could be staged to push people into accepting a single global government. Now, this sounds extreme, I know, but when you put it next to how modern PR or psyops work, it doesn't sound as far-fetched as it used to. Then you have the distraction angle. They tell you to look up at the sky while the real moves are happening somewhere else. Wars expand, surveillance grows, AI slips deeper into everyday activities, all while our attention is captured by glowing orbs and congressional hearings. I guess they think that if you can keep a population focused on the theatrical, it's easier to shift power behind the curtains. Now, I'm not trying to say that all this footage or these pilot testimonies are fake, but again, you have to ask yourself, who benefits if the public gets used to accepting certain explanations? And who profits if we trade away small freedoms in the name of safety and emergency? Who gets the power to define what's real? And as I'm sure you all know, the method is going to be subtle. Don't expect a single reveal, expect breadcrumbs. And over time, those crumbs form a path, the path that shapes public perception itself, something that they've probably been planning for a really long time. So, are we finally being told the truth, or are we being carefully fed the biggest lie in human history, step by step, until we no longer notice the hand that's guiding us? So, what if disclosure isn't about preparing us for contact? What if it's all about preparing us for control? What if the biggest threat isn't up there in the stars, it's right here on Earth, shaping every story, deciding everything that we see, and trying to tell us what we're supposed to believe? Okay, I'll leave you with this. Sometimes the scariest monsters aren't the ones flying silently above us. Sometimes they're the ones in suits and ties smiling at that camera and telling us, don't worry about a thing. And they tend to say that we've got everything under control. Which is really funny because if history has taught us anything, the moment that someone in power tells me not to worry, that's usually when I tend to worry. Okay, guys, thanks for riding along with me tonight through the strange and the unknown. You've been watching Relative Perspective, and as always, I'm your host, Stephen. Now, as I promised, here's tonight's paranormal confession from Liz. She hit me up through email and asked me if I could share her story. And believe me, you do not want to miss this. It is crazy as hell. Go ahead and take a listen.
Hey, Stephen. My name's Liz. I'm writing because I can't keep this inside anymore. This is the story of what happened to me on a camping trip in New Mexico. It scares me to say this even now, but I truly thought I was going to die that night. It was late July 2 years ago. My friend and I parked at a quiet pullout south of Alamogordo near White Sands. No cell signal, just what we thought we needed. We set up a small tent, had a little campfire, and drank a few beers and laughed into the night. Later on, my friend fell asleep. I stayed up smoking and watching the stars. My dog Daisy stayed up and kept me company. Around midnight, that's when everything went wrong. The sound of the night stopped, just like someone cut the world's noise off. Then a very bright white light appeared over a nearby wash. It didn't move like a plane. It hovered close to the ground, and it smelled just like ozone and cold metal. I heard stories about things like this, but I never actually thought I would ever be the one to see it. Daisy started growling and would not stop. I stood up and the light opened like a hole. Something came out. I couldn't tell you exactly what it looked like. All I can say is that it wasn't human. It moved without sound and tilted its head in a way that made my stomach drop. Right then, I learned what real fear is. I felt something press into my chest, not with hands, but with an invisible force. That's when it began shoving images right into my head. Bright rooms, tools, and hands that weren't very friendly at all. I knew in a single instant that if this thing decided to kill me, I wouldn't stand a chance. I tried to move. My legs felt heavy and numb. Daisy began whimpering, and then she fell limp. I actually watched her fall. It felt like an eternity, but I know it was only a few minutes. It finally let me go and zipped off into the night sky. I screamed as loud as I could for my friend to wake up. And when he came to, he couldn't understand why I was so hysterical. The only thing I could say was that we need to go, and now. I threw everything into the car, and we drove away as fast as we could. I kept expecting the light to come back and take the car or reach in and grab me, but it didn't. Thank God, it was gone. The next day, I forced my friend to take me back to see if we could find traces, prints, scorch marks, anything. I wanted to prove to him that I wasn't crazy, but there was nothing. The sand looked untouched. My friend insists he slept through everything and thinks that I'm making it up. But believe me, Stephen, I'm not. I know this because Daisy hasn't been the same since that night, and neither have I. I can't sleep under the skies. Helicopters make me panicky. I have a dull, deep ache across my sternum, and sometimes a smell of ozone returns in the middle of the night. I've told only a few people because they look at me like I'm crazy. I'm not looking for attention. I don't want anyone to pity me. I just need someone who will listen without laughing. Thank you, Stephen, for listening and not judging me. I know what I saw that night was real. Liz.
Okay, I hope you liked tonight's paranormal confession, and to Liz, I want to thank you so much for sharing your story with us. And again, I want to thank you guys for sticking around. If you've enjoyed this deep dive, make sure you go ahead and do the triple threat. You hit subscribe, you hit the like, and you hit the share button. And if you have your own paranormal confession that you would like to share with me, all you have to do is email it to relativeperspective76@gmail.com. I'd love to hear your story, and who knows, you might hear it in a future episode. And hey, if you do see a glowing orb outside your window tonight, don't bother calling the government hotline, because by the time they show up, they're probably just going to tell you it was a damn weather balloon anyways. Okay, guys, until next time, God bless you. We love you, and good night. Whew. That was tough. Love you. Thanks for watching. Good night. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom.